Hi everyone, this is TimePro Spring Summary for Spring 335. I'm here with the TimePro dev team and stakeholders, and let's get into it. So our Spring goal was 2 PBIs about the webhook feature, and they are done, and we will go into the details a little bit later on. This is a 1-week sprint. For the working hours, I worked the most. And we also have Geoffrey, Tom, Lorraine, and Michaela worked several hours. And here is the backlog. We have a bunch of dones and 4 PBIs in progress. And let's get into the backlog. So from now on, I will hand it over to Luke.
Yeah. So it was a good sprint. These guys knocked out a bunch of good work. The main summary is that they've got quite a few bugs knocked out. So there were some bugs around ye old chestnut of the database nvarchar field not being long enough. And so, we were trying to save a string and the database was complaining because the field was too short. So plus
Uh,
one for those
what was the
nvarchar max
string?
people.
A URL?
Yep.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
crazy. All right.
So I feel like every developer ever has been hit by that particular problem at one point or another. Like, we don't need an nvarchar max, it'll be fine. There were a couple of sort of minor tweaks. So there was a misaligned top menu there as well, where the nav items were not lined up with the logo. So just some nice little fixes. They're now correctly aligned vertically. Very, very good. There was a 500, so it blew up when you were trying to delete a timesheet. And this was a bug introduced by an earlier PR. So the team caught that pretty quickly and they were able to issue a fix out for that. So we can now successfully delete timesheets again. And moving on, so the button style, this is where our lovely UI UX designers come into play. So they have a sexy new delete button. This is the first step on making our UI a little bit more consistent across the product. So hopefully the first of many UI tweaks that we will get from our wonderful UI team. Also, just by the by, having red as a primary button color kind of goes against every other UI design philosophy. So we had to go with black for delete because red is do the thing.
That's weird.
Fun
Anyway.
little thing. Yeah. So on to the actual sort of star of the show. So this is where most of the feature work is being done at the moment, which is the on billing. So just to kind of recap people as to what this is about, this is where a timesheet gets created in tenant A, for instance, in the EU tenant or the China tenant. And we want that timesheet to synchronize over to tenant B, in this case, the Australian tenant. So there's been a lot of sort of design and architecting around this. The guys have come up with a pretty good plan where we're essentially going to just kind of piggyback off an existing API endpoint that was built for Easy Leave that allows timesheets to be submitted programmatically rather than via the UI. So they're going to piggyback off that existing endpoint and they're going to submit timesheets using that existing functionality. Interestingly, there was a bit of discussion around potential webhook loops. So the team were already across that. I had a concern there whereby what happens if tenant A is trying to replicate a timesheet in tenant B, and tenant B is also trying to replicate that same timesheet in tenant A. We would end up with an infinite loop. So the team had already thought about that, and they've already got plans to mitigate that problem, which is good. No worries there. We may need to do a little bit more sort of tweaking depending on some edge cases and desired functionality, but the good news is it's on their radar. So very, very cool. So yeah, there were quite a few PBIs kind of relating to that that whole sort of functionality there. So there was the external timesheet API, there was the timesheet data. They were some spikes just to make sure that they could use that existing functionality that was already there, which it looks like they can. And so then they just started with the config first, which is basically we're going to need some config pages to be able to enter all of these webhook values. So those config pages are now built. You can see that here that Jim is demoing for us. So this is where we would go into the French tenant and we would put in all of the Australian TimePro tenant information so that the France tenant would be able to replicate those timesheets over on the Australian tenant.
May I ask a couple of questions? That looks like it's the tenant screen where it's got all the tenant settings of that specific tenant. It says the heading is configure webhooks. I'm going to guess that when you go admin, you click tenant and then you come here. So generally, if I'm correct, sorry, I'm wrong. Admin webhook. So that's different from tenant settings underneath it.
Correct.
Yes.
This is a whole new page. Yes, specifically for these downstream timesheet replication features that we're talking about.
So this isn't a tenant setting. This is.
It is a per tenant setting, but
right. Okay.
The idea is that you need to know the tenant that you're trying to send the information to. Right. So you need to be able to put that tenant information in somewhere. So right. This is the screen where you put that information.
Right. Okay. All right. I'm not sure if I'm right here, but most of these settings that you have here are checkbox, combo box. There's a couple where we have to put URLs and their integration. So CRM, I think you have to put a URL. I think maybe for these ones, and all these ones where you have to put settings, maybe they should have API. So CRM API, Xero API, SharePoint API. I'm still a little bit confused about webhook. Maybe it's tenant API, and then there's API key underneath. But I don't know. Do you guys agree with putting API in all the menu settings where you got to put URLs and call APIs?
I don't know. I don't feel strongly either way. I don't see it adding a huge amount of value, but it wouldn't hurt.
Okay.
Yeah, although that is more developer centric. If you want to have other people saying it would be better to be like a sub menu integrations, and then we have Azure DevOps here.
Right.
Yeah. And stuff like that.
Okay. All right. Consider having a sub menu integrations and do it that way. At least it will hide a lot of the scary stuff away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's getting pretty crowded.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Cool.
That's a good point. Yeah, having a sub menu there for integrations would probably tidy this up a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree too. That's a good solution.
Cool.
Plus, if you're going to sell this as an international solution to another company, you might want to have that as a hidden screen that only people configuring the licensed product are able to access.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. All right. Cool.
I took note of that. So yeah.
I feel like are we at the end now of what was done?
Just about. Yes. Just about. The last one is this improve usage tracking. So this is a bit of a weird one. It was a request by you, Adam, where you essentially just wanted the TimePro team to, I'm going to use a bit of poetic license here, where you basically wanted them to peer pressure people into using the suggested timesheets if they weren't. And so there seems to be sort of a recurring. I said I was taking poetic license, but yes.
Let's understand why a certain person is not using it.
Okay.
And maybe they don't know about the feature. Maybe they think it doesn't work. Maybe they've never tried it. I don't know. Maybe they're waiting on it. They can't use it because it needs Jira or GitHub or something. I just wanted Jim to know everybody on that list has a valid reason not to use it.
Yeah. It was actually a little bit unclear as to what the desired outcome of this particular PBI was. So Jim's kind of doing his best effort where he's just documenting his conversations directly on the PBI. I'm not sure if that's good enough or if you want something a little bit more formal after a month or something along those lines. But I think this is okay for now, given that, we haven't been given any further direction.
Okay, I would say whenever a dev is confused, such as Jim, he would go to the last person who did it, which was JK. If JK can't explain it to him, then you'd add me in the person, But generally, you don't want to accept a task in the first place, Jim, if you aren't sure what to do. Okay.
Yeah, and in the sprint review, we do show the stats that are changing. So the goal is that we try to get to 100%.
Yeah. All right. Okay. All right. Just do this again next sprint and maybe get some help with JK. And if JK can't help, then add me.
Cool. We're going to do. Yeah.
That pretty much wraps it up for the dones. That was a very sort of fly by the seat of our pants summary. Are you kind of happy with the broad strokes of what we've covered there, or do you want to dive deeper into some of these
very
things?
Very good. I also thought there were other ones that Jim did. He called me with a done video of trying to set up the tenant. It was a bit rough. I gave him some feedback. He'll do a version 2 of that. And he called me, he had another video that was in the same video about changing currency settings around and things like that.
Correct. Yeah, they were not done. So they were still open. So they've been brought over into the next sprint, which is why we're not seeing them on this view right now. They've already been migrated over.
I would look at it differently. If I was asked to do a video and get somebody to watch it, I'd say done, V1 done. Now you've got all these new changes. That would be the same one with V2. And Jim, if you go to the SSW rules on PBI V1, it will say every time you do it. I think it uses the example of a search screen. They ask for a search screen, then you show it to them, and they ask for more changes. Then it's the same PBI name with V2 and then V3, and it took 4 versions of the search screen until we said ship it. There you can kind of see we're up to version 3 of the new tenant video or whatever.
Yeah. Fair point.
Okay. All right, cool.
We made the point on the call, Adam, that a done video shouldn't be a V4, V5 before you mark the PBI as done, because if you're a product owner paying for that time, it's especially if the first video displayed what it needed to be displayed, especially if it's not going public, there's not much value in doing multiple versions if it's not going public. But I
don't think whether it goes public or not has anything to do with whether it's a new PB or not, because that's an arbitrary decision by the product owner. You can't control when he says send that live or not send it live.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyway, there's a rule on it. I would recommend you guys watch it. If you can find it, Lou, throw it in the chat. And it's SSW rules PBI version or V1 or something.
Cool. So yeah, look, that wraps up the dones. We've pretty much just covered what the hangovers are for the next sprint, which was a couple of videos for the China work. Also, the Azure function PBI around this on billing was also in this sprint, but Jeffrey only joined yesterday, so he hasn't really had a chance to even start it yet. So that's also been carried over to next sprint.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So with that, I will hand back over to Jim, and he can carry on.
Thanks, Luke. That's an awesome summary of the backlog. Next, let's look at the suggested timesheet usage. It's down 2% for the last sprint. Automatic time usage has down 1%. The sprint burn down looks good. We finished more than half of the PBIs. For production deployments, we have 3 successful deployments in the last sprint. There are no changes on the code coverage on both backend and front end, except for the front end, the code coverage down 1% because we added several pages without adding corresponding tests. For the pipeline health, we have 4 pass rates on the backend. Sorry, the front end. And we have a better pass rate on the backend compared to the last sprint. And here is the application health overview. We are still experiencing a bunch of failed requests, and that is still locked down in this PBI. the state of epics, we are proceeding on the cross-billing feature. So the progress has increased for this epic. And we haven't fully completed the China tenant epic. The only thing left is to publish the China tenant on production, which we will be doing on the next sprint.
I'm not sure I understand that. You're going to publish TimePro on China production.
We will provision the China tenant on. Yeah, sorry, provision.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So it's going to be actually, is that just a test or that's real?
That's real, and that's the only thing that blocks this epic from completing, and we will do that on the next sprint.
Wow, and so then people in China will be entering timesheets into that?
So for some context on that, Adam, you need this on billing feature to come online before you can start using it the way that you want to, which is the epic that the team are currently working on. But I thought it was kind of silly to leave the other epic sitting there at 85% if the only thing that was preventing that from being done was to do the first 1.0 production deployment. So I said, just deploy it, get it out into production, and then continue on with the feature work of on billing, so that we can at least close this epic off and focus our attention on the feature work.
Yeah, okay. I mentioned to you last time, Adam, like there are two big epic. We finish this China epic first, then the on billing one. Then we will start using it.
But when Jim completes this, are you going to be using it in the next week or 2 or 3 weeks?
We can do a testing, but I will never let the entire team to use it until.
Oh, okay. So you're just creating it so people can muck around in it. Okay. And will you be deleting it later and then recreating it?
I think so, right, Jim? I think we will only do the testing, right?
Right. Okay. So it's just for tests.
Just to make sure.
Only for testing purpose.
Yeah, just so you know, earlier in the week, I spoke to Jim and he showed me the videos and I said, you need to make these changes to the UI and all this stuff before recording the video again. And once you've got the video and I'm happy with it, then you can create the new tenant. So, Jim, that conversation should be given on to Alvin and Luke so they know that's it. So Luke knows he's saying something after understanding what I was asking for.
So you want it to be finished. You want your feedback to be finished before using the China tenants?
Yes, I did before creating it, but I understand from this conversation, Luke and Alvin have spoken differently, and it is only a test tenant, so it's not the biggest deal in the world. And it does sound like we can delete the tenant later. Yeah, and recreate it. So which doesn't matter too much either way. You can cut this cake in many different ways.
My main concern, Adam, is that this particular epic will sit at 85% because we need the on billing implemented, and then it'll stay at 85% because we need some UI changes done, and it'll stay at 85% because we need the next thing, right? So we might as well just deploy it, close it out, and then we can move forward.
I'm happy with that. I just wanted Jim to tell you all the context.
Yeah, no, that's good. I wasn't aware. Thank you for bringing me up to speed.
All right, thank you. Okay, hand it over to Geoffrey, starting from the R&D.
Yeah, so for the R&D this sprint, we mentioned the cross-tenant billing and unified report architecting. So just the big picture, basically, of what we're building. And we also had a conversation about R&D on a bigger sort of view. So we wonder, Adam, if you would like us to dedicate some time on actually trying to figure out the R&D for all of TimePro's PBIs, like figure out all the core activities involved and try to link them to the existing PBIs, just so it's all sort of sorted and we know what belongs to R&D actually in the work we do. Is it something you think is critical or can wait a bit?
I'm not sure. I'd like to dig into the details with you and Cookie offline on that one.
Yeah, we can do this after the call then. Awesome. All right, moving on to the AI section. So Jim is using Copilot with GPT-5 and DeepSeek, and I'm still using Cursor. Sorry, what?
Has Jim used Yakshaver at all in the last sprint?
I didn't, but I joined the Javes from Michaela.
If you've been involved in a recording with Michaela, that would be classed as using Yakshaver. Okay. All right.
So yeah, back to it. I'm still. Wait a second. Sorry, it's just a bit loud behind me. So I'm using Cursor, and they just released their 2.0 version this morning, which I've tested, and it's actually really cool because they're now using Composer, which is a model that is dedicated to coding, so it's way faster than before. And you can also do parallel prompts using different agents in the same time, so it's quite cool. And yeah, ChatGPT and Yakshaver.
Okay.
So.
What about Tom? What was he using?
We don't really know because he
so
didn't join. He's on leave today. We couldn't ask him.
Why didn't he?
Goes to YOLO day
join,
today,
Jim?
so we cannot check with him. Jim, have you leave a message to him? Maybe.
Regarding this, what I'm sure is he's using Copilot on Rider. I'm not sure which model he's using.
Okay, don't worry. Okay.
All right. We'll check with him for the next one. Moving on to the Copilot stats. As you can see, we all sort of spoke. Jim was the main speaker because he was running the meeting. And just know that Michael shared his microphone with Alvin. So, they're both counted in this red line. And after this, we have the second stat, which is about the main topic that was discussed. If you can scroll down a bit, Jim. And as you mentioned at the start, Adam, we talked about the Azure function, which is the next sprint goal, which you're going to see on the next email. So the Copilot agent was actually correct. It figured the main action point for the next sprint. And after this, we are going to the retro, I believe. Oh no, Yakshaver use. Sorry, I forgot this one. Yeah, so Yakshaver use 41 new PBIs over the last month. And Yakshaver PBIs 29 were created. This brings us to a 71% ratio of Yakshape, which is quite good. And we've completed 9 PBIs over the last month. And moving to the retro then. Jim. Thank you. Quite a few went well. I joined the team and did the FR experience. It was quite smooth. Michael handled the architecture of the cross-billing system, so the tech details for the webhooks. I enjoyed the way Jim was owning the backlog during the whole sprint review. Like he could answer all the questions very technically and professionally, so it was quite good. And Jim was happy that we kicked off the development of the cross-billing epic. What didn't go well? So the first one is more of a joke, but Luke forced me to do some research rather than actual work because he wants me to, work on some R&D topics. But as we mentioned, Adam, we're going to talk about it afterwards. And most of the team mentioned that we spent too much time on done videos. So this is maybe a conversation we could also have afterwards, Adam. And in terms of improvements, Jim thinks we should clarify the definition of done videos before we start working on them. E.g., if we know it's going to be public, we might put more effort and have more V2, V3s. But if it's not meant to be public, maybe we can be happy with the V1 or just the V2.
Yeah, and Jim, I think you go back to the original versions, like when you first started. I definitely want a version of getting the tenant up and running, and we'll keep doing that until it's good, and that will go public on the TimePro channel, not SSW TV, just TimePro. This is how you create a new tenant. This is how you change the billing. Yeah, so I really should be, I don't know how many sprints you've done, but let's just say you've done 6 sprints. We should be up to version 6 if necessary.
I think it's something about knowing.
Done video. One sec. That's different to a done video where the actual PBI or the artifact of the PBI is the video itself. So you could do version infinity to get it right, which is fine. But
Yeah.
I think the main conversation was around someone does a done video, feedback is received for the video. So that shouldn't necessarily trigger re-recording the done video. It should be taken on board for the next done video they do for the next PBI.
Yeah, you're
and then
right.
the done videos should just get better and better and better. If they're making the same mistakes over and over, like in subsequent videos, then you call it out. But I don't think you want to record endless done videos to get them in inverted commas perfect. What you're talking about
I should have
is the
called it
video
a
is
feature
the
video.
PBI. Yeah, the video is the PBI. So yes, you can spend the time that's required because it's gonna be out there for people to see.
Yeah, but don't forget, I hadn't seen the UI at all for how to create a tenant. So I just want to see it. So for the first time after many, many sprints, I saw it, which was great. And I gave some feedback. So, you know, yes, you can call it two different done videos. It's just a feature of how it's going to work and what it looks like, and that the experience is quite smooth. And you know, I kind of call it a done video, but a done video is usually of a feature that's been completed. You don't usually record a video until it's working.
For that PBI, part of the ACs would be a polished video demonstrating this feature, right?
I'm not actually even asking for it to be. I'm not asking for it to be polished. He can record it in his bedroom if he wants. I want to see the feature from beginning to end. I don't need the TV team involved.
You said you're going to put it on the TimePro page.
Yes, but I'm not sending it to the TV team or anything.
Sorry, maybe I've misunderstood. When you say TimePro page, are you talking about the TimePro website, or are you talking about the internal TimePro page, the website?
No, I'm talking about the TimePro channel on YouTube.
Yeah, so it is public. So
it is public.
So yeah, so in that instance, that PBI, you just put that as part of the AC, saying like you need a video that is able to be displayed publicly. And then for other PBIs, it might be like you've just fixed an internal bug that no one cares about.
Yes, that's a little
one video for that would be
private video.
To a much lower standard.
Yes, but honestly, I really think Jim could have worked this out because he knew it was to show the new tenant being created. He might not be used to me giving him feedback on the UI and the experience. So it might take him by surprise, but the feature itself, what I'm asking for, hasn't really changed. In fact, his video had more in it than I expected.
I feel like if the first time you get to offer feedback on the UI is watching a done video, that's too late, right? Like, because then that's a whole chunk of work of setting up and recording the done video that shouldn't be done until you've at least been taken through it on a call to have an opportunity to get all of those points of feedback out before we spend the time recording the video.
I would agree with that. That's how I would do it as well.
Okay. So yeah, I think just kind of as what improvements can we make for next sprint? I think it should just be before recording a done video at all, phone the stakeholders and take them through it in person to make sure they're happy with what they're going to see.
The other alternative, and I did say this to Jim, is you can put a screenshot in the chat and say, please give it a like.
Okay.
Screenshot of the feature or the video?
Just of different UIs, like new UIs that I haven't seen. Because I think that you made that UI of what it says when it's doing the dynamic syncing, right?
Yeah. The problem with putting a screenshot, Adam, is unless he annotates that screen, like you'd probably want it to be annotated because
no,
you don't necessarily looking at.
No,
okay.
No, he went to a couple of different screens and some of them were ugly. So he could have put all the screens in there and called up and say, these are all the screens you're going to see. Is there any issues?
Okay.
Yep. If no, then I will jump to the forecast. So for our sprint, our goal is the Azure function, which is the core part of the webhook mechanism. And here is the backlog. We have the Spring goal marked as bold. And also we pulled in other PBIs of outside of this epic, including the DevOps improvements, which is to reduce the app insight logs and the China tenant provision.
Adam, I just want to bring your attention to that reduce app insights log PBI. That is a really big deal. The sysadmins have reached out to the TimePro team,
Yes.
going, holy moly, you're chewing up 2 gigs worth of logs every day. So
Wow.
that is a big strain on the App Insights and monthly Azure bill. So that's kind of like a high priority to try and get that reduced, especially getting it reduced before we deploy yet another tenant of TimePro, which is this China
why
tenant.
don't you do that first? Why don't you move it to the top?
Because they'll focus on the cross features. That's the top priority.
Doesn't seem the top priority to me. And what Cookie just said to me sounds like the first thing to fix. As soon as the sysadmins tell you something, you should jump. That's what I would do, because it's something in production. This other stuff is not in production. It's just work. Fix bugs before new features.
Right. So would you want it to be top of the Spring goal?
I think it should be the first thing that you work on.
Yeah. I will adjust the backlog after this.
And can I check, where is the version 2 of the video? There's 2 videos that you're making. They're right at the bottom.
Yeah, I will update the title here. This one is actually about 32 dumb video.
So the first one should be creating the tenant. The second one should be all the switching currencies around and things. And I think that they should go above this new feature about, billing and stuff. And I'm just going to mention just a couple of other things that I think that you should consider. Tom is working on the user experience, right? He's fixing delete buttons and things. There is something weird. There is 3 UI frameworks in there. I think there's Kendo, Bootstrap, and Google Material, right? We must work out what's what, which one's staying, which one's going. So I really want to have that above this new work, just so that he's not doing busy work where he's working on, I don't know, Kendo and Kendo's going, or whatever the issue is. I don't know which one's which, but I know that there shouldn't be 3, and I should know clearly which one's going ahead and which one's dying.
Can I clarify? You're not asking for 2 of the 3 to be removed. You just want to know which one we're keeping. Is that correct?
Yes. And that's just Tom and Michaela talking to each other. I have asked the same question in the past to Jeffrey and to Sam M. All right. So I don't know why I still don't get the answer, but maybe it's hard to answer the question, but we've got to know which ones we're going ahead with, because
Sam M did some work on this for sure, and because he did all the Angular upgrades, and he had to, I think it was Kendo, he had to do a whole bunch of stuff with that, and he looked into that. So we probably should get Tom to speak to Sam M to get to the bottom of this and give Adam a clear answer.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
all right. So
I'll catch us later.
Okay.
See you, Mehmet. Can I suggest that we kind of pick an epic and focus the whole team on it? I noticed that we're in this situation where we've got very divided attention between each developer. So
Yeah.
you want Tom looking at this UI library
Yeah.
thing. You want, Jim to look at the app insights and Jeffrey to do this on billing Azure function. Is there are you happy to kind of keep working that way and make little progress across 3 things, or do you want to focus the team on one particular task?
Well, obviously, I want look. I'll just give you some background. I just asked Michaela just to fix the delete buttons. Obviously, I want them to be consistent and all right. She did it in Yakshaver. It took half a day. She did it in Tina. It took a day. She did it in Sugar Learning. It took a day. She went to TimePro, and for some reason, this one took a long time, and she's still not done. Yeah, and all the stuff I've seen her discover is just the basics. It's not great stuff. But the reason I wanted to know are we using Kendo, Bootstrap, or Material is because I only need her to fix it on one of them. If we decide we're killing 2 others, then she doesn't need to fix it on those.
Yeah.
Right? Unless it's easy, but I don't want unnecessary work being done. Yeah, and it shouldn't take this long to get those. Though just the delete. Now maybe there's just a lot more screens on TimePro and things like that. That might be the reason.
Well, this on billing feature, they've started on this Epic, and they've made a good chunk of progress on it. But I don't know how urgent that is to you as a discrete piece of work. Is this something where you would be willing to deprioritize it and fix the UI? Have the whole team?
No, I
fix
wouldn't
the
do that.
UI?
I would let Jim and Jeffrey work together on the Azure billing. Sorry, the logs together.
Yeah.
They can work on this cross billing thing together, like those 2 together, and eventually you'll get Tom back as soon as he's fixed this other stuff.
Right. So you want to keep the separate priorities for separate devs strategy?
Yeah, I would just keep Jim and Jeffrey working together.
Okay.
Got it.
Sounds good.
And I'm going to ask for one more thing, but I don't think you'll do it in the next sprint, but I want you to think about it. I want to think about moving Azure DevOps to GitHub with all the history and all that stuff. I'm not definite, but I'm thinking of doing it because after this work is done, I want to open source TimePro to be the same as, Tina and Yakshaver is being open sourced and yeah, the same story. Okay, so just be aware that we should, not right now, but we should be thinking about getting Azure DevOps into GitHub. And I'm just curious. I see a lot of Yakshaves, and I watched it. Every time you play the Yakshave, it's in OneDrive. It's not in YouTube like all the other teams. Do you guys care? Does it matter? Is it annoying?
Good question. That was actually super useful just a couple of days ago because Stefan, Jeffrey, and I needed to Yakshave something that had very sensitive information. And when we found out that it was going to OneDrive, it made us feel much better because it meant we could Yakshave it with that sensitive information.
Okay.
And just to give more details, there's actually another one, which is CRM, which is also not on YouTube. So it's only TimePro and CRM.
Yeah, there's a reason. Yeah,
because of the data, I guess. Yeah.
I wasn't planning on changing it, but I just wondered if it bothered anyone.
No, actually, we're happy this way.
It's super important, Adam, because a lot of, there's obviously a lot of client financials that get exposed through TimePro, and they will end up in Yakshave. So it's good to have that privacy.
Yes.
Yep.
Agreed.
A +1 to that. I got a client called Forensic Care at the moment, and I asked them about Yakshaver, and they are working on a project with data about people's mental health and very private medical data. So I'd imagine a lot of clients would want that as a very big optional.
Okay. All right. That's cool. But to be clear, that's not affecting us from moving from Azure DevOps to GitHub.
Correct.
Okay. Yep. And
nice.
You can talk to Gordon about that when you get to that point. Because I want all history, but I won't get it I'll get it for the source code, but I won't get it for the issues I know.
You've been asking for this for years, and everyone's told you it's impossible. when are you going to listen?
I can get all source code history. That's easy.
Yeah, but not the issue history.
Yes. Not the issue history. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know something
Does that
about
wrap us
GitHub
up,
we
Jim?
don't?
Okay. If there are no more questions, that will be
Um,
all for our spring review and forecast. You can have a video on this YouTube channel. And thank everyone for attending. I'll see you in the
Nice.
next video.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, Jim.